I remember this now. Yes. It seems Watson was rather hot with you.
Indeed he was, so I decided to investigate Miss Hall on my own. Watson wouldn't like it if he found out, but I didn't want him to get suckered into anything. I had my Canon 5D, and a good 300mm lens that I use for watching birds and the habits of social insects like bees, and I thought I would put it to good use.
Sounds like you had a plan ready. And folks, if you have a plan to have some pictures taken, see the professionals at SJH Photo, with a convenient location in Millersville, Pennsylvania. SJH Photo covers a wide selection of area. They shoot weddings, events, sporting events, portraits, and much more. Please visit their website, sjhphoto.com, for more information. So, I don't recall. Did you go by yourself to her house?
No, I asked Watson's niece Jenny to come along. Watson approached her about finding a job for Alice, and she...
This is the address Uncle Jack gave me for Miss Hall.
Okay, I'll pull in across the street.
Wow, that's a nice BMW parked alongside.
Yes, it is. I wonder who could own it.
Mr. Holmes, is that her leaving the house?
Indeed it is. Here's the camera. Take a couple of pictures of the car while I duck down so she doesn't see me.
I'm getting some good shots. She has an envelope. I think I can get a picture of it. She drove away in the BMW.
How did the picture look?
Well, let's look at the playback screen.
Her hair is blonde. She had dark hair when I met her.
Are you sure that's her? The envelope is addressed to a Jane Vandersnoot.
Vandersnoot? I know that name. I have a who's who compiled on my computer. I'll have to check it out when I go home.
And look at the folder she was carrying. We couldn't see it being so far away, but your telephoto lens makes it visible. It says...
The Watson Files. I know Jack is smitten with her, but I can't see him ever sharing his memoirs with her. He doesn't even let me read them until he tells them to Mr. Dahlen every week.
Wait a minute. Did you say you have a who's who compiled on your computer at home?
Yes, I did.
Well, you set up your computer for remote access, right?
Indeed I did. Jack wanted to have access to it from his house. This way you can view it online. Why?
Well, we can have a look at it here from my laptop.
You have a laptop?
Mr. Holmes, this is not the 19th century. Every self-respecting college girl has a laptop and never parts with it. Now, let's see. Vanderman. Oh, here. Vandersnoot. Oh, Mr. Holmes, look at this.
Alan Vandersnoot, one of the richest men in the state, until poor investing made him lose his money. He died of a heart attack shortly thereafter. His wife, Jane, was left with a small pittance and moved away, vanishing from the celebrity radar. I wonder if Alice could be Mrs. Vandersnoot.
Well, there's one way to find out. I'm going to Google her. There's sure to be a picture of her on the internet. Oh, Mr. Holmes, look!
It's her. Come on.
Where are we going? You're heading for her house, but there's no one there. We just watched her leave.
Brilliant deduction, Ms. Watson.
What are you doing then?
You know, asking the obvious questions runs in your family. This, my young college student, is called investigating.
Mr. Holmes, my generation calls it breaking and entering.
You're an English major. Surely I don't have to tell you that a rose by any other name still smells as sweet.
Mr. Holmes, I don't feel too comfortable about this.
Well, I don't see why not. This is some pretty comfortable furniture in this house.
Yes, it all looks quite expensive.
And look, I guess I'm not the only one who has a telephoto lens.
These are all pictures of you and Uncle Jack.
And they are candid. Walking through the park, getting in our cars. Here's one with Officer Weathers and me.
And look, this is Uncle Jack's handwriting.
Why, it's a copy of one of his Watson files.
Don't either of you use a word processor?
Doesn't matter now. I see what she's doing. Come on.
Where are we going?
To see Mr. Dahlen. I have a feeling he was asked how much he pays for the Watson files.
Hello?
Mrs. Vandersnoot, this is Corporal Moran.
Corporal Moran? Aren't you friends with that professor that got arrested recently? Martin, I believe.
I hear you're trying to acquire some of his stories told by that blumbering Watson and that Fink Holmes.
That's right, but I assure you, I'm not trying to put the professor in a bad light. I would never publish anything he was involved with.
That's good, but that's not what I want. We've been acquiring the manuscripts so we can destroy evidence implicating the professor. We would be willing to share the other cases with you for a fee.
How much?
$50,000.
You'll have to wait until I sell them before I can pay you.
That's fine. Meet us at the docks in 2 hours. Mrs. Vandersnoot.
Yes. Do you have the documents?
Right here. Give it to her, killer.
Sure thing, boss. Here's the papers. Excellent. I know someone who will pay handsomely for these. And if not him, I can sell it to a magazine, like The Strand or something.
Hold it right there.
The cops! Cover me, Corporal. I'll throw my briefcase at him. Killer, what are you doing? Trying an incapacitating hold I learned in college. I have her, Mr. Holmes.
You're not going anywhere.
Stealing someone's documents is a crime, Mrs. Vandersnoot.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes, a red-haired wig, a false scar, and a change of voice can work wonders as a disguise.
Holmes, you told me Mrs. Vandersnoot was behind this, but I couldn't believe it. Why'd you do it?
I needed the money. The bank wants to repossess my B&W, and I can't sell my clothes and furniture.
Why not?
Because I don't want to. I deserve the best.
Well, you'll have some new jewelry anyway. These metal bracelets you're wearing really bring out the sparkle in your eyes. Take her away, Officer Weathers.
Gladly.
Mrs. Vandersnoot seemed to think that I paid Watson a fortune to retell his stories. He tells them so that everyone can enjoy them. It's just a pittance to supplement his income as a doctor.
Yes, Jack was always content with the necessities. He never chased after material wealth. I'm not sure that someone as shallow and without conscience as Jane Vandersnoot could ever appreciate that.
So, I don't remember. What happened to Mrs. Vandersnoot?
Well, she only had one manuscript in her possession, and with her connections she got off on a small charge, and just got the proverbial slap on the wrist.
I see. Well, how did she get it?
She knew that Watson would go out to buy a new suit for his big date, so she snuck into his apartment and found his latest work on the table.
I see. So how was your brother's visit?
Well, I explained the situation to Watson, and it took him a while to get over it, and frankly, it is still a sore subject with him. But we had a good time with Michael, and it's been years since we had a portrait taken together, so we had one. And I also had one with Watson taken. There it is.
I need to have a family portrait taken, too. I like to have one done at least once a year, and when I do, I go to SJH Photo. Tonight's Watson Files adventure was written by Sean Hagins and directed by Scott Strosahl. Spencer Holmes and Dr. Watson were played by Michael Helgens and Greg Kilberger. Additional voices were performed by Steve Rimpici and Stacie Frede. For SJH Photo, this is Craig Dahlen saying good night from Strobe Studios.